When my eldest daughter was 2 years old, I opened a self-serve dog wash. When a dog would walk in, she was so excited to see these dogs that she would run up to the dog, throw her arms around their necks, give them a big ol' hug before I could stop her. And I would tell her, no, sweetie, you need to ask first. The people would always say, oh, it's okay, my dog's friendly. And having the background that I do, I'm looking at this dog and know that, no, it's really not okay.
I could be a mess, stressed in yesterday. He don't care less, he sees me anyway. Yeah, he sees me anyway. My dog thinks I'm great, he thinks I'm number one. He never hates, even when I'm done.
Welcome to this episode of Dog Leads. My name is Steve Bishop and I'm a certified dog trainer. I have a BA in psychology and a minor in sociology, and I've been training professionally both group classes and private clients for about 15 years. If you're in mid-Missouri and are interested in training or would like me to speak to your group, you can contact me at bishopsgatetraining@gmail.com. This episode is brought to you by It Goes Without Saying What Our Dogs Are Trying to Tell Us, and I will be presenting this on November 1st, and then a repeat will be on January 10th. If you would like to improve your relationship learning the language of your dogs, this presentation is for you. It'll be held at Waters Moss, and pre-registration is required, and I will leave a link down in the comments. So for this topic, I actually do a 1-hour presentation, which is already way too short. And so trying to keep this to a 15-minute, give or take, podcast, we're really just brushing the surface. So please don't hesitate to contact me if you want more information. I am a Family Paws parent educator, and a lot of what I'm going to talk about is based on the information from that program. There's several free resources available, as well as presentations and private consultations that we do. There are members all over the world. So if you're not local to me, someone is probably close to you, and I'll leave a link to that in the in the description also. So just to be clear, for some reason, a lot of times people think that Family Paws Parent Education is my program. It is not. I am a member of that program. I went through the training. So I just wanted to make that clear. I don't know if it's the way I talk about it or what, but well, there it is. So about 4.5 million people a year are reportedly bitten by dogs. And this number changes a little bit, but it's usually right around 4.5 million. 82% of those bites are to children under 15, and 26% of those bites are to the face. So you think about my daughter running up to these dogs, she was right at head level with these dogs. Her face was almost right in their face. And so it makes sense. Also, a lot of bites will happen because people are putting their face in a dog's face and kissing them or holding their head, pulling their ears, etc. And it's just the target that's available to them. Something I don't hear a lot of people talk about, but I was thinking about it when I was getting my psychology degree and we were talking about development, infants and whatnot. Infants have what is called a palmar grasp reflex. So what that means is, you probably notice if you put your finger in a baby's hand, they close their fist around it. So I wonder, particularly with the cases where we see babies getting bitten, and we're going to circle back to this in a little bit, but babies getting bitten, they grab onto the dog because the dog brushes up against their hand, and maybe they have an ear and are pulling on it or something like that. The dog whines, the dog yips, snaps at the baby, whatever scares them, and the baby grabs on harder. And so the dog, in their eyes, are only left with one option: to turn and to bite or nip. So the dog is likely to do a lot more damage than if, say, they put their teeth on me or someone who's a little bit older. And of course that ends poorly for the dog. So the palmar grasp reflex lasts until about 6 months, give or take, once the fine motor skills start to develop, and we see that kind of fade out. With infants, there are 5 types of supervision. One is absent. We just leave the baby alone and the dog has free access to them. This is where we could potentially see this palmar grasp reflex coming into play. The next one would be the passive supervision. And this is where you're there, but you're on your phone, you're on the computer, you're watching TV. You're not really paying attention to what's going on. Then we have the reactive, which is waiting until something happens and then responding. So, for example, Moira was a little bit older, her youngest daughter. Malcolm was right there in front of her. She was petting him and whatnot. And for whatever reason, she started just kind of, I don't know how to explain it, kind of jerking her head into his face. Going, And I'm sitting there watching this. And on the one hand, I could see Malcolm escalating, but at the same time, I didn't want to react where I startled one or both of them, and then they reflexively, Malcolm would bite or Moira would hit the dog or, something like that. I don't know. And before I could make that decision, Malcolm actually snapped at her. But it wasn't a situation where I was thinking, oh, Malcolm did really great at showing inhibition. It was more, oh man, I really screwed up. I should have been more on the ball. It was that passive supervision. I was there, but I wasn't paying close enough attention until it was too late. And then I had to stop and think, how do I handle this situation? And so we want to be really careful about just reacting to the situation. We want to have that active supervision or proactive. Proactive supervision is planning ahead, shutting the door when the baby's sleeping, having gates up when you're not in the room while the baby's watching TV and you're cooking dinner, or something like that. You want to make sure everybody's safe, everybody's separated, and they have something to do. So baby's watching TV, the baby's laying on the blanket, playing with the mobiles or whatever, and the dog has a chew toy or a stuffed toy, or everybody's occupied and they're not interacting unsupervised. Then the last one is the active supervision. So you're always between the dog and the baby. You're always aware of what's going on. So a good example here, when Becca, our oldest daughter, was little, she really liked to interact with Duncan, and Duncan was very social. But you just never know what's going to happen, so you want to actively supervise the situation. So one of the games we came up with, I would have Becca in my lap. Duncan, as I've mentioned many times, loved tennis balls. He would bring the tennis ball over. I would give the release cue. He would drop the ball in my hand. So Becca's hand was never near Duncan's mouth. No accidents were going to happen, and if they did, it was going to happen to me and not her. I'd get the tennis ball, I would hand it to Becca, and then Becca would throw it. And Duncan would go chase it, bring it back, and then we just repeat it until one of the three of us got tired of it. So that was active supervision. I was between her and the dog. We were still interacting, but it was very guided and very supervised. Another thing you want to be aware of is what's called a kiss to dismiss, and this is something that Jennifer Shryock has come up with. Jennifer is the head and the founder of Family Paws Parent Education. What a kiss to dismiss is when the dog will lick a person, baby, whomever, and the idea, and I'm oversimplifying here, the idea is, oh my gosh, that's gross. You kind of draw back, and the dog is getting that space that he actually wants. It's not this, oh, how cute, he's kissing the baby. Is he kissing the baby, or is it a kiss to dismiss? Obviously, we don't want to force the baby into the dog's face, and again, that goes back to what I was talking about before with the reactive supervision. So we want to look at the dog's body language before and after this kiss, see if it is a kiss to dismiss, if they're showing signs of distance increasing, so yawning, lookaways, where they're not making eye contact with the baby, check-ins where they're looking at you for guidance and help, things like that. So we want to be really careful about oh, that looks so cute, and maybe it's not so cute. Getting on to the topic of children's interactions, this question came to me from a friend of mine, Heather. We want to teach our kids to interact appropriately, so we want to start when they are infants, making sure they have those appropriate interactions. Becca, like I said, she was 2 when she started coming to the store, and I started teaching her at that point how to interact with dogs appropriately. And she was with me in the store, I forget exactly, 2 or 3 days a week when she wasn't in daycare, and she was starting to learn those appropriate interactions. Ask before you pet the dog. Don't bother the dog when they're eating. Don't bother them when they're sleeping. Allow them to have their own private space where they know they're not going to be bothered, their safe space. The other thing with kids and dogs, but with kids in this context, you have to be consistent. Every time you see the child do something they're not supposed to, you need to address it, remind them of the rule. So, for example, every time my daughters would try to play in the dog's crate, sweetie, that's, at the time, it was Duncan's safe space. You need to stay out of there. That's his room. You're not supposed to be in there. The children, the girls, were never allowed to get into or play in the crates. So that goes to my next thing, is you want to give that dog a safe space. So in our house, it is the crate. Nobody's allowed in there. We don't bother the dog when he's in there. The crate is open 24 hours a day. The dog has free access to it with a few exceptions. We're out of the house, everybody's out of the house maybe 3-4 hours a week. It's rare that he's locked in there, but we've made it very comfortable for him, so he'll go in there and just take a nap or go chew toy. I had a private client where the dogs were having trouble with the kids who were, I forget exactly, but they were between like 9 and 11. And one of the things we worked on was they didn't have the dogs crate trained, but they had dog beds in their living room. The couch divided the open floor plan, and there was one of those couch tables behind it. The dog beds were underneath it, so they had kind of a safe, cozy place. And I explained to the clients, I was like, look, when the dogs go there, the kids aren't allowed to mess with them. That's their safe space. They need to have that place they can go where they can just get away, decompress, and know that nobody is going to bother them. So come up with a space like that for them and teach the kid that area is off limits. That's like your bedroom. You're not going to allow anybody in there that you don't want in there. So the same thing with the dog. You also want to teach the kids, most dogs do not like to be restrained, meaning the hug. If you look at images, just do a Google search for hugging dogs, and then enlarge the picture, cover up everything except the dog's face, and you can see those dogs are uncomfortable. The pictures aren't as cute as you think they are. Think of it this way: if somebody comes up to you and throws their arms around you and restrains you so that you can't move your arms, you can't get away, even if it's somebody you know, that's going to start to make you feel uncomfortable. And if it goes on long enough, you're going to do what you have to get away. So it's the same thing for our dogs. We don't want them to feel uncomfortable, particularly with a family member. One of the ways you can show affection is just by gentle petting. Jennifer also talks about this. It's called Pet Pet Paws. I can't remember if she came up with that or if that's something that she just shared that she got somewhere else, but pet the dog twice and then just kind of sit back and wait. If the dog comes towards you, ask for more pets, then it's okay, go ahead and pet them. If they don't, just leave them alone. It's like your friend that doesn't want to talk right now, but they still love you. Another thing you can do, one of the things I learned in the very first class I took as a student, dogs really like being scratched under the chin or on the chest, as long as it's not too hard, obviously. But I have had dogs literally fall over backwards when I've done this to them. They like it a lot more. It shows that you're respecting them and they're more comfortable. Something I talk about quite a bit when people in my particularly group classes, but people come to me and talk to me about kids and the dogs. Kids are erratic and unpredictable from toddler up to, I would say, early teens. And so that can make dogs very uncomfortable. If they've grown up with them and they're used to them, everybody gets along, that's fine. But how it plays into this, one of the things we want to look out for is over-arousal. Now, how do we tell when a dog is over-aroused? One way is the growls may become lower. you may see the dog leaping up more and repeatedly, nipping. And one of the big ones I look for is no response to known cues, even if it's just saying their name and having them look at you. So we want to be careful of getting to that point. So over-arousal leads to acting without thinking. And so people do it too, but dogs will revert to their most base instincts. And a lot of their behavior, and particularly play, is what we call modified hunting behavior. So the chasing, the nipping, the jumping up that can cause harm to an individual, particularly younger kids. Particularly with kids, you want to remind them that every interaction does not have to be about play. The best memories I have with Duncan, and granted I wasn't a kid, but I would sit on the couch, he would climb up there and rest his head in my lap, and I would just kind of gently stroke him, read, watch TV, whatever it was I happened to be doing, but he would fall asleep, and that told me he felt safe with me. And I just love those moments. Like I said, it's the fondest memories I have. Everything we did, the camping, chasing balls, everything, those are my fondest memories of him. And the kids can have that too if the dog is a kinesthetic dog. Something else that can really solidify the bond between a dog and a child is have the child go to a training class with the dog. And I talk about how to choose a trainer in episode 6, so if you want to go back and listen to that, it'll give you some ideas, and I won't cover that again. But when we got Malcolm, Becca was old enough, I told her, you're going to take Malcolm to the training classes. You're going to train him. And I was there to, kind of supervise and keep an eye on things, but I pretty much just stood back and let the instructor kind of lead them through the whole thing. And Malcolm is her dog. There is no question about it. I thought it'd be funny. I got a coffee mug I found in a store one time, just kind of browsing. It said the dog likes me best. Brought it home, and it wasn't a week or so later, while they were going through this class, that I was like, you know what? This is your coffee mug. It's not mine. The dog likes you best. I'm just an observer. But that can really help. So even in my group classes, parents will come to me and ask, is it okay if the kids come to the class? And I tell them, we want the dog to respond to everybody in the family. So I don't mind if the kids come to class, but I do recommend only one child and one adult, because what you want to be careful of is if you get 2 or 3 kids in the class, or even at home, you want to watch for this too. You've got one kid saying, oh, come here, come here, come here, and the other one saying, sit, 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 and the dog's sitting there going, what the hell am I supposed to do here? So you want to make sure that they're getting instruction or cues from one person and not several people at once, where the dog is going to be conflicted. And then they just learn not to respond at all. So anyway, back to what I was saying. For the classes, have the kid come to class, let them do most of the work, but the parent's there to kind of keep an eye on it and supervise and whatnot. This is older kids. It's I'm not talking 4 or 5 year olds, but 8, 9, 10, depending on the responsibility of the child. That's okay. They should be able to handle the dog with a parent there. So those are a couple of my thoughts on getting children and dogs to interact and getting the children to interact appropriately. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment or email me at bishopsgatetraining@gmail.com. And thank you for joining me, and give this episode a like if you found the information useful. Just a reminder, we are now on Spotify, Apple, and iHeartRadio, and we will see you next time.